Welcome to the Not Old Better Show. I'm Paul Vogelzang, and today's show is brought to you by NordVPN and Inside Tracker. I think you'll enjoy today's show as we're talking about gaming, video games specifically. When you think of a gamer, you probably don't think of a 65-year-old man or woman spending their afternoon on the Wii or PS2 or Xbox or Nintendo Switch. But think again. An estimated 21% of people who play video games are over the age of 50. And what's more, it turns out that some of these older gamers are reaping very significant health benefits as a result. Today's show is all about those benefits. And here are just some of the great social, cognitive, and physical benefits that video games and virtual reality have to offer seniors. Well, for one, there's better emotional well-being. Whether it's going for a walk, meeting friends for lunch, or seeing a movie, doing anything you enjoy improves emotional health. So, it's no surprise, many seniors who enjoy video games find themselves in better moods. A study of 140 seniors over the age of 63 years old concluded that both regular and occasional video gamers reported greater well-being, social functioning, and better health than non-gamers. In addition, they reported significantly lower rates of depression among people who play video games than those who don't. There's also improved balance. Video games can provide physical benefits too, especially to all of us over the age of 60. Certain games that require physical interaction, like Wii Sports, for example, and similar titles, can help us improve our balance, coordination, and reflexes due to the quick decision-making and action required to play. Some of us have even reported faster walking speeds as a result of playing video games. It may not be obvious at first, but improving cognitive skills can translate into improved balance and gait. And while fitness video games like the Nintendo Wii and even the newer Nintendo Switch have revolutionized exercise for us all, virtual reality is already leaving its mark on physical therapy. There's also enhanced cognitive ability that we've already kind of referred to, this improvement that not only comes emotionally, but physically and cognitively. In fact, a University of California at San Francisco Medical School research study showed significant improvement in cognitive ability, effectively reversing signs of aging in seniors who played 3D games. There's reduced risk of Alzheimer's, with an estimated 5.5 million of us suffering from Alzheimer's in the U.S. alone. Treatment methods are heavily scrutinized and highly valued. Amazingly, recent research has even demonstrated a link between playing video games and a reduced risk of Alzheimer's. This study also looked at connections between gaming and tissue growth in different parts of the brain. Just fascinating stuff. You get all these benefits, plus lots of fun. Our guest today, Andy Carl from the Virginian in Fairfax, Virginia, says they love it when talking about those of us who play video games. Andy Carl is the executive director of the Virginian, and he serves as lead instructor and founder of the nation's only graduate concentration in senior living administration within the Georgetown University Program in Aging and Health. In 2004, Andy Carl coined the term NANA technology. That's N-A-N-A, NANA technology. And Andy Carl has consulted on technologies for older adults with companies including Apple, Nintendo, GTX Corporation, and Vigorous Mind, among many others. Andy Carl tells us that part of the enjoyment that comes from video games is the fact that gaming isn't competitive, it's just great fun. Andy Carl says that we encourage everyone to cheer for each other. That helps everyone have even more fun because they're cheering for everyone. The installation of the new innovative system at the Virginian called OBI for Seniors is part of the Virginian's high-tech, high-touch, state-of-the-art expanded memory care program. The Virginian will be among the first senior living communities in the nation to utilize this technology, which has been demonstrated by senior staff to improve cognitive simulation and motor skills, all of which we've just discussed. Plus, it helps us keep active and motivated to participate in all of these great activities. OBI for Seniors is an award-winning interactive gaming system that turns any physical space into an immersive and highly entertaining experience for seniors. We're going to talk about that and more today. So please join me in welcoming to the Not Old Better Show, Andy Carl.
So I wonder if we could start by just talking broadly a little bit about just what I think to be, and I'm sure you agree, just this very important issue that's before us, this issue of those of us in my age group, I'm 64, who are facing loneliness, isolation, mental health issues, death even, all of which has been exacerbated in the senior community by COVID. And I wonder if you could maybe start with some statistics around those issues, those subjects, and tell us how you and your industry are starting to better understand some of those problems and address them.
Well, actually, that's really interesting. I mean, on a macro level, because we know that apathy, boredom are major issues. It's actually ironic when you heard all during COVID about people in senior living communities being at risk. And then as soon as it ended, we've seen a tremendous uptick in interest and inquiries for people who want to move into senior living. You say, well, wait a minute. It was in the news for a year how, dangerous these places were. And the reality is it's even worse to be alone. It's even worse to be alone. And the rates of depression among seniors, even before COVID, most people don't know this, but for people over 80, about 6 times higher than any other age group, including teenagers. So now we've known this for years. But what we have seen is that people are more drawn to the social aspects and understanding that being home alone for a year with your family could not even visit you, had to stare at you through a window. As it turns out, now that there's an opportunity to access senior living, it actually jumps significantly in terms of people. Probably when this is all done, there may be more interest, ironically, in senior living now than there was before.
I think that's a good thing. I think this idea of socialization and isolation is real. And I watched it in my own case. My mom is 91, still living in the family home in Northern California. It's been about 20 months since I've seen her. I'll go see her for her 92nd birthday at the end of August. But she's just been incredibly lonely and incredibly isolated from family. And I think that's just a really harsh issue that we're all kind of facing. But inside the bubble of kind of some of the senior living facilities and communities, I think, and I'll ask you this directly, I think that probably due to frailty of the seniors themselves, there might be a little bit of unwillingness to gather and to participate in some of the activities. And I think that this fear, along with the psychological stress that just comes from COVID, from a pandemic, has created additional issues. And so I wonder if you've seen that here and whether or not that's contributed to some of the issues that are ongoing in facilities like this. I wonder if you think that's a fair statement.
Look, I can't speak for all communities. I will actually say that there's another irony here. There's been 2 worlds out there. There's been the general population and this whole issue with the pandemic. And then there's been those of us in these communities where we've been together for a year. They didn't have a family for a year. All they had was us. And we've actually grown closer. We've always cared about our residents, but when you're kind of in the foxhole together for a year, I think that in this community, we are closer than ever. The other part of it that is kind of ironic is that the very first people vaccinated were us. Mm-hmm. So every resident in this community, we were actually the very first full continuum community in the Washington, D.C. area to have 100% of our residents vaccinated. Mm-hmm. We were the very first group.
That's impressive. And the county
selected us because they knew how hard we were working on this. But we, in January, received our first doses, months ahead of everybody. And about 85% of our staff, now approaching 90%. The only staff we have that aren't vaccinated have, medical issues or religious reasons. But even that is, I think the average in senior living nationwide was less than 50%. And we just blew that off the charts in January. So point I'm making is this, at least in the case of our community, we actually have been safer inside our walls than people in Northern Virginia have been several months ahead of them. And so we've kind of been enjoying it. We have no problem getting together. We have a happy hour every Tuesday and Thursday at 4:30 in the lobby. And as you just saw when you came in, if you're in a common area, you have to wear a mask. But in our happy hour, everybody's vaccinated. there's no mask, and everybody's having a great time. So again, can't speak for other communities, but for us, getting out there, getting vaccinated months ahead of everybody, waiting for the rest of Northern Virginia, which has high vaccination rates now, by the way, to catch up. But we've been safer for a long time. We've been waiting for everybody else to catch up with us.
What is it about Zoom and some of the other social media platforms that just don't do kind of some of the same things in terms of overcoming isolation as just kind of gathering and getting together and enjoying some of these times, these happy hours? What is it about?
Well, I've been an advocate of Zoom and other interface media because I'm kind of into technology.
Yeah.
And I actually, before COVID, was pushing people to use that. But I've never said it was a substitute. And it's not a substitute. First of all, number one, people get very nervous when they're on camera, even if it's your own camera. They just do. They act differently. They don't know quite what to do, especially when other people are talking. We all do that, let alone if you're 85 and you've never done this before. There's a little bit of a novelty for some of them as we did it that was kind of George Jetson to them. But it's not the same as being in person. And then even if you do acclimate to it, it's not the same as giving someone a hug. I just saw my own in-laws last week for the first time in over a year. Went down to Florida. We've been Zooming with them for a year. It's not the same.
Tell us a little bit about the technology, the Obi for Seniors gaming technology, how it combats some of these issues of loneliness and isolation, and just this idea that kind of a community activity is really a positive one. And maybe talk a little bit about what the Obi for Seniors technology does in terms of its specific design for seniors, the idea of usability, dexterity, and then this overcoming technology, the idea of simplicity.
Well, actually two parts. The first part is Obi. So I have worked with what I call nano technology.
Yeah, you coined that term.
Yeah, I did, but teach at a university. But we did see in Obi applications for seniors. And, the actual definition of nanotechnology is microchip-based technology designed, intended, or that can otherwise be used to improve quality of life for older adults. And Obi actually falls into that category. It actually was originally intended for children. And, restaurants, play areas, fast food areas where they would play on the floor and, the motion sensor stuff. But what they saw and what I saw is you can trigger that application to older adults. I did a similar thing with Nintendo actually 15 years ago with the Nintendo Wii, where I had to convince them that older adults could use the Wii. And frankly, they didn't.
I wish they were still doing it for
I know, but it was
I love it.
Because when I first contacted them, they said, "What are you talking about? We don't know anything about that." But then we were able to show them that in fact seniors love the Wii. Yeah. So I saw the same thing with Obi. Long story short, and I happened to know their North American rep and reached out to him and said, "Look, this can work." And he said, "Well, it is working in Europe. We just brought it to the United States. So we're just happy to be among the very first in the country to have it, the very first in this area." But here's you were talking a minute ago, what we call kind of the ABCs of dementia: apathy, boredom, and then communication. And what we saw in Obi is it addresses all three of those things. And you're always looking at those ABCs when it comes to people with Alzheimer's related dementia. First of all, apathy. It's fun. And then the boredom, well, it's engaging. They stay with it, and people with dementia and Alzheimer's, it's hard for them to stick with things. But we're seeing even early on that they enjoy sitting there playing for a while. So we know it's fun. We know it's engaging. But the key to me is it requires no instructions. You don't have to communicate any detail. You need to do this. You need to do that. Literally, all you have to do is sit down in a chair and start moving your hands. So there's the ABCs right there. So that's a very powerful technology. So that's part one with Obi. Part two is, if I can say, that Obi's just part of the technologies that we're trying to put into our memory care program. This is going to be state-of-the-art, high-tech, high-touch. There are other technologies that can dramatically improve quality of life for people with Alzheimer's and related dementia. Just one of them I will tell you is we're installing circadian lighting. State-of-the-art circadian lighting system, because we know these individuals lose track of the time of day. And this will allow them to rise with certain, wavelengths of light, peak in the middle of the day, cozy down at night. I've always said that sundowning is a myth frankly. It's simply that you haven't accommodated their needs. So these are the kinds of things we're doing in the memory care in addition to OB.
We'll be right back with Andy Carl, the Executive Director of the Virginian, and we will be talking more about all the fun that you can have, plus enhanced abilities that can come from playing video games. You're going to love this. Stay tuned. Hi, it's Paul. We're going to just take a quick break here to mention our sponsors. Today's show, of course, is made possible by NordVPN. Now, don't get worried. We're going to sort out the name and what they do right now. Plus, I think this is the most important part. Not Old Better Show audience get a special deal. Hint, it's 73% off. That's right, 73% off when you use the NOB exclusive code on NordVPN products. So stay tuned to this. All my work is online right now related to my podcast and my radio show. And I have to tell you, because I rely on technology for my livelihood, I used to be very nervous about passwords, security, and hackers breaking into my home network and stopping me from doing my business, uploading my shows for you all. Now I'm a NordVPN customer, and I'm not worried in the least. You've heard the term encrypted, and that's what the NordVPN does to your data so others can't hack it, but they can't easily read it either. The NordVPN encrypted format gives you a great deal of protection and assurance that your data is protected, secure, and theft-free. There's a ton of peace of mind that comes from using a secure system to protect yourself online, and NordVPN is the best. Now, Not Old Better Show audience can go to nordvpn.com/NOB and use the code NOB at checkout to get 73% off of a 2-year plan. Plus, you get 4 bonus months for free. Now, be quick about this because the offer is for a limited time only. There is a 30-day money-back guarantee if NordVPN is not for you. So there's no risk because they're so confident about their service, and you should be too. So remember, go to nordvpn.com/NOB. All of this is going to be in our show notes. Use that code NOB at checkout. Get 73% off of a 2-year plan, 4 bonus months for free. This is just a great deal. When you do what you love, like running, like racing, like enjoying the great outdoors, you want to do it for life. Our sponsor today, Inside Tracker, can help. Inside Tracker, our sponsor today, was founded in 2009 by leading scientists in aging, genetics, and biometrics. Using their patented algorithm, Inside Tracker analyzes your body's data to provide you with a clear picture of what's going on inside you and to offer you science-backed recommendations for positive diet and lifestyle changes. This is just an awesome product. Then, Inside Tracker tracks your progress every day, every step of the way toward reaching your performance goals and living a longer, healthier, happier life. It's customizable, it's simple, it's based on you. And now for a limited time, you can get 25% off the entire Inside Tracker store. Just go to insidetracker.com/NOB. That's insidetracker.com/NOB. All of this will be in our show notes to get 25% off the entire Inside Tracker product line in their store. You got to check it out. We're back with Andy Carl, Executive Director of the Virginian.
I want to talk a little bit about kind of what's coming with you in just a few minutes, but maybe tell us a little bit about the OB itself. We're going to see that, and we'll put some pictures up on the website about the OB for Seniors gaming technology. But maybe describe the virtual surface. Tell us a little bit about how you see it as being so intuitive, how just by sitting down and just starting to move your hands, you tend to get it. So maybe describe that.
I mean, here's the really cool part. You know what the equipment is? A table. I mean,
most of us have that.
Yeah, most of us have that. We actually took a table. We painted the top white just to make it easier. But I mean, this is the beautiful part of this. I mean, there's a projector installed in the ceiling. That took about an hour. And then you have a remote control. That's it. There's nothing to set up. There's nothing to take down. If you think even about viruses, you disinfect the top of the table and you use some hand sanitizer when you sit down. And it's even something you can use in the middle of a pandemic, for goodness sakes. So it could not be simpler. And this is what you're looking for. Remember, this is a generation that they don't read 60-page instruction manuals on how to use their cell phone. Only you and I do that.
Not me.
Yeah, I had a senior tell me once. She said the instruction manual for my phone's bigger than my phone, and I thought, she's right. This is a generation when they came of age. These inventions came out. You just plugged them in and used them, right? Mm-hmm. TV, whatever. So they've been waiting for us to catch up with them. Mm-hmm. But that's what Obi does. There's literally no instruction manual. You sit down in a chair at a table. And by the way, when the Obi's turned off, we use the table for other things. But you turn it on and you play. It's really a wonderful thing.
So there's a surface to it, and then there's a projector, and the projector throws light down onto the surface of this.
Yes. Uh-huh. And it's sensor activated. Now, by the way, you can move the table and play on the floor. You can use your feet. Okay. You can play soccer. You can turn it sideways and project it on the wall. So there's a variety of ways you can use it. But the simplest way, especially with older adults, is on a tabletop. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it projects, it has about 200 what they call games. Mm-hmm. There's about 60 that they've identified for seniors. And by the way, when I said it was originally invented for children, to be clear, they've modified these games.
Yeah,
they
tell
have
us
a
a little bit
PhD gerontologist in Israel who I've spoken with, Zoomed with, and she knows exactly what she's doing. She was hired specifically to modify these to address their impact on seniors, specifically people with Alzheimer's and related dementia. So we have about 60 of those games, and we're actually learning. We've been about 3 weeks now. We're learning which ones they like better than others.
So you see a lot of smiles?
Yes. Yeah. They find it very engaging, and they can't believe that these little soap bubbles float across the table and you pop them with your hands. And it's kind of fun.
The thing that strikes me about it, too, is that it's gaming technology, and there's a whole possibility for intergenerational kind of play. I wonder if you'd talk a little bit about that. Have you seen some of that in play?
We haven't done it yet, but you just nailed it. I mean, right away, you can see grandchildren. Yeah. Think about a grandchild or a great-grandchild, and your grandparent or great-grandmother has dementia, and you're struggling to even comprehend what's going on. And how do you connect with her? And you can sit at a table, and suddenly all that disappears. Think about the power of that and the ability to make that connection on someone who, frankly, you're not going to have a long relationship with. So, yeah, critically important.
Well, Andy Carl, we appreciate your time so much. Final question for you, and you kind of have referred to this a little bit, but all this has to be very exciting to you. I know as an expert in this industry, you've got to be just excited about this future. Tell us a little bit more about what's coming in terms of gaming technology for senior communities.
Well, look, the future of these, first of all, you're right. I've been tracking this for 15 years now. And what you see with technology is it ebbs and flows. There'll be 5 years, there'll be a bunch of cool stuff, and then really nothing new for 5 years. But we're now getting to that next point, and really now it's going to be, frankly, all about data analytics and artificial intelligence. The ability to use data to zero in and really understand what people are responding to. In particular, people with Alzheimer's and related dementia who can't tell you what they're responding to. Mm-hmm. Obi gives us all kinds of data behind the scenes that people aren't even thinking about. How long they've been on there, how much did they move, how long did they on this game, how did they react? Are people at a lower level, earlier stages, can they play more advanced games? Mm-hmm. Or are there games as they get into other levels where you have to go, change the level of the difficulty? These are all the things we're learning just from the data that this camera, by the way, is capturing as their hands move. And then it's about artificial intelligence, I think, for other technologies, the ability to basically voice communicate. We've built robots that can do everything, Paul. We've built a robot that can do anything you could think of, but it can't talk. It can't communicate. And when we get to that tipping point with these technology, we have robots that can mop your floor, load your dishwasher, do your laundry. But you have to be able to tell them how to do that. And we're very, very close, I think, in the next 5 to 7 years of literally being able to communicate. I know it sounds scary, but to just directly speak with. Think about how you speak with Alexa now. Mm-hmm. Advancing that to a whole nother level where now the machines, not Alexa sitting on a shelf, but robots can respond to what you're saying and even think in advance about what needs to be done. So, tighten your seatbelts because it's going to be a really cool ride.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Did I leave anything out? Anything you want to follow up on? Or?
Great questions. And you can tell I can talk about this for a while. So.
Well, it's a pleasure talking to you too. And as I say, it's so nice to meet you. We'd love to keep this going, have an ongoing conversation with you as the Virginian gets further outfitted, and certainly as it begins more outfitting towards this technology. I think it'd be interesting.
You know where we are, and part of the reason I came here is I continue to teach at Georgetown, but this is kind of a lab for me, to be honest. I'm looking to see we can broker these technologies in. We have a lot of connections in the tech world, as you know, and what I've said to them is hey, we've got a laboratory here. Let's see what we can do.
Well, congrats on all that you are doing, and it's appreciated. We need it in our age group, so thank you, sir.
Thank you.
My thanks to Inside Tracker and NordVPN for sponsoring today's show. My thanks to Andy Carl for joining us today and all his expertise and his enthusiasm about the subject of gaming and seniors. It's a real thing, so enjoy those games. And please, get vaccinated. And if you have friends and relatives who haven't, politely encourage them to get vaccinated, especially as winter months are approaching. Remember, let's talk about better. The Not Old Better Show. Thanks, everybody.